There is something I've been noticing in certain friendships, in a lot of friendships actually. You can have someone in your life, and if anyone asked, you would still call them a friend because they show up, they respond. When something goes wrong in your life, they're by your side. And when something goes right, they're also there. But still, something about it feels off. And the most disorienting part is that there is nothing specific to point to. It's not bad enough to leave, but it's also not safe enough to relax. And maybe there is no clear moment when it changed because nothing happened, and that's exactly what makes it so hard to explain. You talk, you spend time together, and everything looks absolutely normal on the surface, right? But still, somehow, you leave with that sense that something in you had to adjust, just enough to feel it later. Like you left slightly smaller and less yourself than you were before. And for a while, you may not notice any of this right away because these people usually show up when things are hard. When you're going through something, they're present, they engage, and they listen to you. But if you start paying attention and look a little bit closer, something doesn't add up because are they really listening to understand you, or are they consuming details? Are they trying to make you feel better, or are they quietly relieved that things are not going well for you right now? I see the real test of friendship not in how someone meets you in your lows, but how someone meets you when you start growing. Because yes, some people can sit with you in your pain, but they may not be able to stand your expansion. And sometimes it's not that deep. Sometimes it's just a mismatch. But still, if you share something good, for example, you landed a job offer, you got promoted, maybe you met someone special, started a business, or hit a goal, whatever it might be. But still, instead of being celebrated, you feel observed, measured, and evaluated. Like they might be there for you physically, but there is still something missing. There is no warmth in their congratulations. Maybe they minimize it. Maybe they redirect it immediately to themselves. Or maybe they go quiet for days and avoid you. And this shift may catch you off guard at first, because if you look at things objectively, on paper they have more than you. So you don't really question them, you question yourself. But what might actually be happening is that something in them is being activated by you. You're triggering something in them that they don't yet know how to hold. And it's not always about your life or what you have. It's about what your presence does to them and other people. Your energy, your warmth, the ease in which you laugh, and the way you make others feel seen. And people want to be near that energy, not necessarily because they love you, but because being near you makes them feel something that they don't know how to generate on their own. And the painful irony is that the very thing that makes them feel drawn to you is the very thing that makes them resent you over time. Because yes, they want your energy, but they also wish you didn't have it because you having it highlights what they feel they lack. And most of the time, it doesn't show up in ways you would expect. I've seen this dynamic play out in many different forms over the years. But the first time I saw that clearly was much earlier, almost 20 years ago. I had a very close friend, someone you could call a best friend, someone I trusted completely. We could talk for hours about anything. I could be fully myself around her, open, relaxed, and at ease. And there was no tension between us. At least I didn't feel it. And the last time we saw each other, we made plans to meet again, as always. And then she disappeared. No explanation, no ending, just silence. I remember thinking that I must have said or done something, but I couldn't find what. And if you're someone who is highly sensitive and emotionally attuned to others, even a slight change in how someone shows up can land deeply. When someone who was present all of a sudden becomes distant, when calls are not returned, when messages are read but not answered, it can be very confusing and unpleasant for anyone, really. And when a connection completely breaks without any apparent reason, that can be unsettling and destabilizing. You may try to understand what happened, replay conversations in your mind, go back to everything you said or didn't say, everything that you may have missed, and you look for what you may have done wrong. And I remember for me, it was also the time of my college entrance exams when that happened. So there was already a lot of stress and pressure, and also this constant background noise in my mind, like what happened? There was no closure, just absence that kept my mind looping. At some point, I realized that I still had her math prep book. So after the exams, I called her to return it. And part of me also thought that that would give her space to say something, if there was something. So we met, and I will never forget how she couldn't look me in the eyes. And at that time, I couldn't connect the dots. We exchanged a few neutral things. Nothing's wrong on the surface, but the entire conversation felt closed and cold. Of course, I had questions I wanted to ask, but I remember my gut feeling told me, don't. Something is off. And I trusted my instincts. I gave her the book back and I left. Then life moved on. I passed my exams and I got into college on a full scholarship. New people, new environment. So naturally, I just completely stopped thinking about this story. Until years later, I found out what actually happened. And if you told me back then, I wouldn't have believed it. It had nothing to do with anything I did or said, but it had to do with how people responded to me in spaces where I was not even present. So there was this friend group that she introduced me to at that time. And we clicked, but I was rarely there because they would go to nightclubs, they were partying a lot, and it was just not my environment. I never liked noisy crowds, and I preferred to spend time on my own, doing my own thing, maybe meeting one-on-one sometimes. That is exactly why what I found out later didn't make sense at all. So every time she showed up without me, people kept asking, where is she? Why didn't she come? Call her, she should join us. And she wouldn't call, saying that I was sick or out of town. Apparently something in that dynamic made her feel displaced, like she was no longer the center of that friend group the way she used to. And I was blissfully unaware of that because nothing was ever said. There was no conversation. How am I supposed to know what's going on if you're not talking to me? So yes, I would have never guessed, which is the point, because some of the ways people treat you will never make sense until you stop assuming that it had anything to do with you. I've also realized that some people do not relate to you as a person. They relate to you as a reference point or a measuring stick. They don't actually see you, but they're measuring themselves against you, where they stand, how they're doing, how they feel. And they need access to your life, not because they love you, but because you're a benchmark. When you're struggling, that might actually make them feel more stable. But when you're thriving, then they're threatened because your life is no longer neutral in relation to theirs and it becomes confronting. Some people don't need you to fail. They just need you not to surpass the version of yourself that they feel comfortable next to. And this is one of the most confusing kind of relationship dynamics to navigate because on the surface, it looks like friendship. They show up, they check in, they remember things, but the underlying motivation is not love or genuine care. It is self-regulation through comparison. This is how envy starts to show up. A subtle dimming, maybe a backhanded compliment, a comment or reaction that feels slightly off, maybe enthusiasm that feels forced, or a subtle shift in someone's tone that you cannot quite explain, but you still register. And people who are envying you don't always realize they're doing it. They may genuinely believe that they want only good things for you, but at the same time, there is still part in them that feels slightly behind, or not slightly. And they may struggle with watching you have what they want. They may not want your entire life necessarily, but it would just make them feel a bit more comfortable if things were more even. So they want to stay close enough to monitor, but far enough in their heart to avoid celebrating you. They may still be present in your life, yes, but not actually be in it. And what looks like closeness on the surface, like interest, curiosity, engagement, even admiration at first, can slowly turn into comparison, observation, and then competition that you might not even be aware of. If you've ever left a connection feeling drained, even despite the fact that nothing explicitly bad was said, or if you felt like you had to manage your joy around a specific person, shrinking your wins and softening your good news, well, you might actually be managing yourself to make them feel more comfortable. And envy in friendships is not always intentional cruelty. Usually it's unhealed pain in another person expressing itself through comparison. But it doesn't make it your responsibility to manage, though, because you can still have compassion for who someone is and where they are in their journey without giving them the front row access to your life. I get it. Some people open up quickly, and in that moment, it may feel like there is real depth between you. But in reality, what is happening is not connection, it is access. They are not relating to you, but they're using the space that you create to process themselves. And if that kind of openness happens too early, it is not stable because it bypasses a slower process of getting to know someone. And that's why what usually follows is not consistency. Usually it's just distance. Because being seen, especially before someone has the capacity to hold it, doesn't lead to closeness. It creates pressure. So that's why instead of staying and building what is real, usually they leave the situation that made them feel exposed. At a deeper level, it is not just behavior. It is a reflection of what you represent in another person's internal world. And if you reflect back without even trying to, if you see things clearly, you start to function as a mirror. And people don't respond to mirrors in neutral ways. Some feel inspired, others may feel triggered and exposed, or all of that at the same time. And if you really look at your relationships, that ratio is rarely balanced, because a mirror that is clear enough, it doesn't just comfort you. It confronts people, their limiting beliefs, their deep-rooted patterns, how they view themselves, others, the world. So if everyone feels comfortable around you, if everyone likes you, it is worth questioning what you might be over-adjusting and quietly setting aside to make that possible. And what it would actually mean to stop doing it. What happens if you don't over-adjust? And what happens if you keep doing it? Because one keeps the connection and the other one keeps you. And most people know which one they've been choosing subconsciously. The thing is, the real presence, it doesn't get neutral reactions. It moves people. It is powerful. Some people will meet themselves through you, and others will experience you as threat and pressure. And that's okay. And if they don't face it, then the exposure turns into distance, and you did not create attention, you just revealed it. So the question is not how to fix these dynamics or how to hold something steady that only works under certain conditions, because it is not yours to fix. It's about how quickly you can recognize these dynamics and adjust accordingly. And sometimes it might look like distance or not giving the same access or level of presence or availability. Because once you see clearly, for example, when someone pulled away because you opened up and they did not have the emotional or relational capacity to meet you there, you stop chasing, over-explaining, internalizing what happened. You no longer try to fix what was never built on the stable ground. You see, discernment is not about cutting people off. It's about having the courage to be fully yourself with another person and paying attention how it's being received and adjusting accordingly and not overgiving where it is not met. Not all connections need closure. Some just need clarity that you can give to yourself instead of waiting it from another person that might not actually be capable of giving that to you. Clarity doesn't end relationships or connections. It ends illusions. Not everyone who comes into your life is there to build with you. It is what it is. Some people are only able to stay as long as the version of you that they can relate to stays intact. And once that version changes, and it always does because we're all growing and evolving, so does their capacity to stay. And you realize what once felt like friendship was actually something that only worked under certain conditions. But the right people don't pull away from your growth, from who you are or who you are becoming. They meet you there. They want to grow with you, and they don't need you to be small just to stay. And once you see it clearly, you stop negotiating your size because you can finally see what it's been costing you all this time.